Lecture 1. The Hermetic Heritage. An Introduction to the Kybalion. What if the principles shaping your thoughts, emotions, and circumstances were not psychological theories, but ancient laws? Long before modern psychology, before institutional religion, and before philosophy took the forms we recognize today, there existed a body of teachings claiming to describe the hidden laws that govern mind, matter, and reality itself. In this lecture series, we examine an occult philosophical work that claims not to introduce a new doctrine, but to convey ancient Hermetic wisdom. You are not simply reading a book, you are engaging with an intellectual and spiritual tradition that shaped centuries of Western esoteric thought. The purpose of this first lecture is to clarify the context in which this work emerged, to explore the mystery surrounding its authorship, to understand the legendary figure at the heart of its teachings, and to examine the unique method through which this knowledge was preserved across millennia. By the end of this session, it should be clear why this text presents itself not simply as a book, but as a master key designed to unlock the doors of the Temple of Mystery. The context of publication and authorship. This work was published in 1912 by the Yogi Publication Society in Chicago, during a period marked by intense interest in metaphysics, mental science, and spiritual philosophy. The early 20th century witnessed a convergence of science, psychology, and spirituality, as many thinkers sought unifying principles beneath the surface diversity of belief systems. Yet, unlike many works of that era, this book does not promote its authors. Instead, it bears the deliberately obscure signature, 3 Initiates. Their anonymity is not an oversight, but a continuation of a long Hermetic tradition. The authors make clear that their intention was not to establish a new religious system or to claim personal authority. Their goal was far more restrained and far more ambitious. They observed that sincere seekers often gathered fragments of truth from religions, philosophies, and scientific theories, only to find them contradictory or confusing. What was missing, they argued, was not more information, but a unifying framework, a set of fundamental principles capable of reconciling apparent opposites. This book was intended to supply that framework, the great reconciler, beneath all systems of thought. Hermes Trismegistus, the master of masters. To understand the roots of these teachings, we must turn to ancient Egypt, long regarded as the cradle of esoteric wisdom. According to Hermetic tradition, Egypt functioned as a vast initiatory center, a great lodge of lodges, from which the deeper philosophical currents of India, Persia, Chaldea, Greece, and Rome ultimately flowed. At the center of this tradition stands a figure known as Hermes Trismegistus, revered by later generations as the Master of Masters. Though historical details of his life are obscured by time, tradition places him in the earliest dynastic periods of Egypt, long before Moses. Some accounts even describe him as a contemporary and teacher of Abraham. Hermes was credited as the founder of astrology, the originator of alchemy, and the father of occult wisdom. After his death, tradition claims he lived several centuries. He was deified by the Egyptians as Thoth and later adopted by the Greeks as Hermes, the god of wisdom and mediation. The title Trismegistus means thrice great, a recognition of his mastery across multiple planes of knowledge. Even today, the term Hermetic survives in modern language, signifying something sealed, hidden, or protected from disclosure, a linguistic echo of the secrecy maintained by Hermes's followers. The method of transmission, lip to ear. One of the most important aspects of Hermetic philosophy is how it was preserved. For centuries, these teachings were not written for public consumption. They were transmitted orally, from teacher to student, lip to ear, within carefully guarded initiatory lineages. This was not elitism, but preservation. Hermeticists observed that when esoteric doctrines became public religions, they gradually lost their depth. Philosophy hardened into theology. Insight gave way to dogma. They saw this pattern in ancient India and Persia, and later in early Christianity under imperial authority. To protect the integrity of the teachings, Hermetic schools adopted deliberate obscurity. Advanced knowledge was reserved for those prepared to understand it. As they expressed it, milk for babes, meat for strong men. The goal was never popularity, but continuity. Across generations, a small number of initiates safeguarded what they called the sacred flame, understanding that truth imposed upon an unready world invites distortion, persecution, or ridicule. Hence the enduring maxim found in this tradition: the lips of wisdom are closed, except to the ears of understanding. The nature of the Kybalion. What then is this work itself? Originally, the term referred not to a book, but to a collection of core Hermetic axioms, concise statements expressing fundamental laws of reality. These maxims were often unintelligible to outsiders, yet immediately meaningful to initiates once properly explained. Its publication in 1912 represents a modern presentation of these ancient teachings. The original axioms appear as short, authoritative statements, while the surrounding explanations are the interpretive work of the three initiates, adapted for contemporary readers. The book does not claim novelty, it claims continuity. True Hermeticism, Mental Alchemy. Hermetic philosophy is frequently misunderstood as a primitive attempt at material alchemy, the transformation of base metals into gold. In reality, this interpretation misses the central point. True Hermetic alchemy concerns mental transmutation. It is the art of changing one state of mind into another, one mode of consciousness into a higher one. The gold sought by the Hermetist is not metallic, but psychological and spiritual mastery. The Hermetic worldview holds that the universe itself is fundamentally mental in nature. Matter, energy, and form are expressions of underlying consciousness. The mastery of mind, therefore, becomes the key to understanding and influencing experience. The Seven Principles, a preview. At the heart of this work are 7 Hermetic Principles, described as universal laws governing all planes of existence. The text declares, "The principles of truth are 7. One who knows these understandingly possesses the magic key before whose touch all the doors of the temple fly open." These principles are: 1. Mentalism. The universe is mental in nature. All reality exists within the mind of the all. 2. Correspondence. As above, so below. Patterns repeat across physical, mental, and spiritual planes. 3. Vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, all things vibrate. 4. Polarity. Opposites are identical in nature, differing only in degree. 5. Rhythm. All things rise and fall according to rhythmic law. 6. Cause and effect. Nothing happens by chance. All events follow law. 7. Gender. Masculine and feminine principles operate on all planes of creation. Each principle will be examined in depth in subsequent lectures. The approach to study. As we conclude this introduction, consider the attitude of the ancient neophytes standing before the temple gates. Hermetic tradition reminds us, "When the ears of the student are ready to hear, then cometh the lips to fill them with wisdom." This study is not intended as mere intellectual accumulation. Knowledge without application, the text warns, is like hoarding precious metals, vain and unproductive. These principles are tools meant to be used. Our aim is to understand the laws of mind well enough to apply them, to transmute unproductive mental states, to master emotional rhythm, and to become conscious participants in causation rather than passive effects of circumstance. The three initiates did not seek to build a new temple. They offered a key, trusting that the student would recognize the door already before them. In our next lecture, we will take the first and most fundamental step by exploring the principle of mentalism, the foundation upon which all Hermetic philosophy rests. Until then, reflect on the lineage of this wisdom preserved in silence, protected across ages, and now, through this work, placed in your hands.